Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Jim K. Ford Sens Nation podcast. Coming at you after what I consider to be maybe the most shocking result of the young NHL season. It's not that young. It's 50 games old. What am I talking about? But you know what? I'm over 50, so it's still young. Anyway, the Senators somehow beat the Vegas Golden Knights 7-1 in their game 2 of a back-to-back with their minor league goaltender in the net with only second NHL game of the year. And Vegas comes to town and they whomp them 7-1. Crazy. Greg, how are you today?
Good, Steven. You pretty much nailed that game. What a shocker! Like, I don't know anybody saw that one coming. Wow, 7 goals and that's not a piece of crap opponent either. Like, that was a great game, very entertaining for the fans. Anyway, Mads Søgaard, who would have thought that was even possible? That he could do that? Well, I mean, he was 10 minutes away from a shutout. That was impressive, very impressive. But and again, these are the Ottawa Senators. They are that teeter-totter, up, down, up, down. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow night?
Yeah, it didn't seem like they generated a wildly large number of shot attempts compared to other games. It just seemed like one of those nights where pucks went in for them. And I think as much as Ottawa's own goaltending has been weak, I mean, their finishing ability, getting these 5-alarm chances and not being able to finish them, I think that's been not as bad as goaltending, but it's been in the discussion about problem things that have happened to the Sens this year. And so it was nice to see from the Sens perspective a few pucks going in the net.
Exactly. Like, this is, their offense has not been bad. Everybody quotes their wonderful offensive underlying stats, and here's a night where they did score even more. Like, they've done all right in offense. Offense has not been the problem this season. So to get 7 against Vegas, like, holy smokes! And, I'm trying to remember, was there a power play goal in the game? Like, it seems like they got 2 goals from defensemen. Like, everything seemed to fall into place for them, and it was about time. It was due for sure.
Agreed, for sure. And so then you've got the weirdness of Linus Ullmark being ready to play, but not starting in the game. James Reimer in a back-to-back. He had just played 4 games in 7 days, and for a 37-year-old goaltender who hadn't played any NHL hockey to that point, that was a lot to ask him to go into a back-to-back situation. The assumption would be if Linus Ullmark was ready to play that he would start in that game because they wanted to give Reimer the night off. Ullmark was ready to dress and sit on the bench, but not ready to start. And so they brought up Mads Søgaard, and he was the game's first star. Wasn't tremendously busy, but did make some good saves. I think he had 19 saves in the game, so that was a good thing. And then get sent to the minors the next morning. But what do you think? And there's still, even on Tuesday as we record this, they're still not sure exactly who's going to be starting against Colorado on Wednesday night. And I think the headline was in Post Media, Ullmark will start when he says he's ready. It's like, to me, with all due respect, if you're ready to put the ball cap on and get your gear on and be the backup, you are ready to play. So it's like, take all the time you need. But if you've declared yourself a backup, then you should be in there as the starter, I think, on Wednesday night.
Yeah, and especially like the Vegas game, if there was ever a situation where you might go to the backup before the game started, you would have had an easier bet saying, Søgaard's not going to finish this game. Ullmark's going to play. So are you saying that he wasn't even going to come in? Like, that's the weird part. It's like the Steve Staios will contend when we're ready to contend, and Linus Ullmark saying, I'll start when I'm ready to start. So that seems strange. And now, again, not another easy opponent, a very difficult opponent coming up, and he's not going to start again. But you got to believe that there's a good chance he ends up coming into the game. You can't leave Reimer in for the whole night, just like you couldn't expect him to leave Søgaard in. If somebody's getting hammered, the goalie's getting yanked, and if you're sitting on the bench and I'm the coach, you're here on the bench, you're ready to go, then you're going to go in the game. You're going to play. It's that simple. Yeah.
Just to be clear, they haven't decided who the starter will be for
Correct.
Wednesday. And so Ullmark, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's you. I think, if he is the backup, Colorado, there's a good chance. They've chased a few goalies over the course of the year. They are the best team by a long shot in the NHL. So if you're ready to be the backup, then you should be starting in the next game because you're making $8.25 million a year to be the solution to this team's long-term goalie problems. In the 4 or 5 games before he decided he needed to step away to deal with his mental health issues. His stats were actually really good until that Leaf game that he was chased from.
Yeah.
But at this stage of the game, it's like, okay, if you're not ready to play, respect. Go deal with that. But you're putting the backup gear on, you should be playing now. If you're feeling like you're ready for that, then I think it's time to actually get in there. And what do you think about Matt Sogard going directly down? Was there any thought in your mind, given that James Reimer really isn't like the long-term part of this team's future at 37? Was there any thought that maybe you'd want to keep Sogard around, that maybe he's found a new gear?
No.
Okay.
I think I'm on record as saying that Reimer's going to be the guy, and that if they need somebody to play a game, I mean, last time we talked, there was no update quite like this on Ullmark. He wasn't even going to be the backup when we last spoke. And I felt then that, yeah, if Reimer's not going to play the Sunday game, they're going to bring somebody up to start it, whether it's going to be Nylander or Sogard. And neither one of them has been all that impressive this season. But then Nylander goes and gets a shutout down there in Belleville. But no, I think if a situation like this arises again, where Reimer needs a night off, if Ullmark's still not starting and Reimer needs a night off, then I could certainly see them doing this again. Call up either Nylander or Sogard. But I wasn't expecting him to stay. I figured it was a 1-game thing. He got lucky. Like, man, he had a great night. Not a difficult night, as you said, but a good night nonetheless. Made the saves he's supposed to make and gets a win. So good for him. But he's back where he belongs for now in his career at this stage, to be playing games in Belleville. He and Nylander share the load down there and get some work in.
I think it's what you're saying is probably the feelings of most fans, but that's sort of an assumption that James Reimer is going to, continue to play the way he has. I thought he looked pretty ordinary in the game against Carolina. He was unbelievable in that collapse against Nashville. I thought that might have been his best game, even though statistically it wouldn't indicate that. I mean, he kept the Sens in that game long enough to collapse later, but some unbelievable saves in that game. I don't know. I'm just thinking from the terms, it might be a little off the page, but this is a guy that has been in the organization for a while now. He feels like he's finally healthy for the first time. He spoke really appreciatively about the journey to get back here because he's been so injury prone. So I'm not talking about replacing a veteran who I felt comfortable with. I mean, James Reimer's been as good as anybody else so far, but in terms of the long-term future and who will, because I mean, there's a good chance Linus Ullmark, even when he gets back in there, might continue to scuffle, and the backup will be needed. And I'm just looking for anybody, and I don't necessarily have great faith in any particular goalie, but I don't have a ton in James Reimer. I don't have a ton in Linus Ullmark. I don't have a ton of any. Why would I have any kind of?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So why not go with a homegrown that maybe has found a little mojo here, because there was some mojo there, and but it's always nice to have seven goals, a little run support there too. So fair enough. All right, that's asked and answered. The other thing that happened on the roster side of things, with Sogard going down, Reimer being he's a healthy scratch, technically speaking, on Sunday to get a night off, so he's back in. But we had an injury. Stephen Halliday, very unfortunate. 2 goals and an assist, having the game of his life, the night of his life, hockey-wise, in the 7-1 victory. But in the third period, Thomas Hertl hits him near the Vegas bench, and he has that unfortunate moment, Chara on Pacioretty scenario, goes into the stanchion and hits his head, big time, hard fall, and left the game. And it looks like he may not be able to play. The good news is it doesn't seem that bad because he was at practice. But what do you think? Let's ask, what did you think of Halliday's performance and his likelihood in being potentially an impact player down the stretch?
Yeah, I think it's great. I've been waiting for it all year. Give the kid more opportunity. And he has shown that he can play. He's played well whenever he's been called upon, and increased minutes, better opportunities. David Perron's out. The kid's getting some power play time a little bit here and there. He's a good player who can produce some offensive numbers. He seems to understand both ends of the ice. I think he's a future middle six. I mean, I was advocating for him possibly being in the top 6 to start the season at one point when we went through rosters way back when. I thought this was a guy you could maybe try him out somewhere up in the top end of the lineup and see how he does. So I'm really happy for him. I think it's great. Unfortunate this little face schmuck thing happened, but hopefully he's okay. It's hopefully it's not like a long-term concussion thing. But then here comes an opportunity for somebody else, as Xavier Bourgault has been called up, I guess more or less as an insurance policy. If Halliday can't go, then Bourgault's going to go, and that's good. I'd like to see him play a game too, see what he's got.
Bourgault goes. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm head over heels with that one. My God, a 1980s pop reference there. Anyway, why not Arthur Kaliev, though? He's the AHL All-Star. He's got a substantial lead on Bourgault as far as the team scoring lead goes. Kaliev must be sitting back going, what do you people want me to do exactly?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, wow. I'm still of the same opinion on this. I really think that the brass have decided that he's just not good enough to play in the NHL. That's all there is to it. They've come to the conclusion that if he's not playing in the top six and producing offensively, then he really isn't a help to them. And that's got to be the reason why they're not calling him up. I mean, unless they're ticked off at him over something. I know the little bit of a scandal he had earlier in the year talking about his gambling problems and his ex-girlfriend and all that sort of stuff. But enough's enough. If you're punishing him for that kind of crap, enough's enough. If they wanted him to play and they believed he could play, he would be here. Like, it's still a professional hockey team. You want to dress the best lineup, put the best roster on the ice, have the best roster on paper that you could possibly have. And if they really felt that he was good enough to be here, then I think he would be here. So it just has to be an internal decision that they don't think he's good enough to play a role in the bottom six, and they know he's not strong enough skating wise and thinking wise, speed wise to play in the top six. So I guess he's just a tweener for life.
Yeah, maybe as far as the Sens are concerned. We should point out that those are just strictly allegations by the ex-girlfriend in the New York Post saying that that was her contention, that there were gambling issues and that he had fraudulently taken like $50K off of her, but none of that has been proven. That was all allegations from the ex-girlfriend, and we haven't heard anything further on that. Or I think the NHL was looking into it, and we still haven't heard anything back about that. So certainly that whole thing could be a factor in. And I'm certainly not advocating for, if all things are equal, Arthur Kaliev to come up and play, but the discussion is about Kaliev versus Bourgault. I don't think they have any more NHL hopes for Bourgault than they do Kaliev, and so that's why I asked the question. In either case, it's not a huge deal. But I think I guess if I'm running things, I do give it to Kaliev from the perspective of you want to create at least the illusion of a meritocracy. And Kaliev is your all-star, and he's got all the points, and so he's done what's been asked of him, and I think that sends a good message to the rest of the team that if you play great, you're going to be rewarded for it and not buried. Moving on. Will the Sens on Wednesday night do a little better than an 8-2 annihilation that they had in Denver? What was it, a couple of weeks ago? It was earlier in this month. One of their worst games, like maybe the worst game of the entire season. I think it's the first time all season they gave up 8 in a game. Colorado just did whatever they wanted. And so the Avs come to town now. And at least the Sens are not in a back-to-back like they were that night. But Sens will still probably be heavy underdogs unless they get a little mojo going from the 7-goal performance. Sometimes the offense gets going and off you go. But what are your expectations as the Avalanche come to town on Wednesday?
Oh, boy. It's the old up and down Senators. What are they going to do? I think they'll do okay. I think there's a sense of pride there, right? You combine the players' pride, having been hammered 8-2 last time, that's going to contribute to them playing well. You combine that with, like, boys, it's time to get moving here. As far as if we're really going to make a run, it's time to make a run. Let's get going. I think that factors into it. Colorado's in a bit of a funk lately. They're not exactly humming along at their 780 clip. Like, aren't they 4-3 or something in their last 7? They've actually been losing games recently. So there's a little bit of that factoring into it. I think the Senators are going to do all right, Steve. I really do. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they're certainly not going to lose 8-2. There'll be no embarrassing loss on home ice against the mighty Avalanche.
Okay, so let us move on. We've got an interesting article from our pal Graham Nichols at the Hockey News that he fired out there today that had some great one-on-one quotes with Brady Tkachuk. They talked about the health of his hand. He admits that thumb is still being taped up and he's not able to fight, and that kind of bugs him from time to time. And so he's got to basically pick up his game in other areas. He does miss that concept of being, rough and tumble and getting in fights and things like that. But that's one thing. But the thumb does feel good, so that's a good thing. Then you've got the performance angle, and I thought it was a fairly interesting quote about him wishing that he could play the same way all 82 games. Let me get that for you. I'd like to be at the level I was at Four Nations every single game, but 82 games is a lot of games. There are days when I think everybody who's ever played can say that there are games where they tried everything they could, but nothing was going their way. For me, it's limiting those moments and those games. Would I like to be at my absolute best for 82 games and for every game of my career? Yeah, everybody would, but that's just hockey. Sometimes the bounces don't go your way, and when they don't, you just have to try and stay within yourself and focus on playing your game. And the other part is fan reaction. Of late, there's been some fan criticism, wondering where that Four Nations player has been. And certainly I think the thumb has been part of it. And when asked about the white noise of social media, of people being critical of Tkachuk, he said, "No, I don't worry about that stuff. People have a right to their opinion, but all I care about is the opinion of the guys within this room." Anything in there that grabbed your attention?
Well, I understand where he's coming from. It's difficult to have your A game every night, but there are elements to Brady's game that are not necessarily statistics, that aren't stat sheet things, right? Like he's not producing goals and assists. We understand that, but a Brady game is physicality. Brady game is chirping and yapping, and he's the unicorn. He's the power forward who drives the net, who wreaks havoc on blue paint, who mushes people into end boards on the forecheck. Those things, I think, even without your A game statistically producing goals and assists, I think would still be there if he were 100% Brady. So I think that probably has more to do with the fans' disappointment. It's not necessarily that Brady's not scoring. I think it's that Brady's not being Brady, right? Like Brady, I've heard people talk about it's Timmy Stutzler or it's Jake Sanderson who are dragging this team into the fight. It's not Brady. Like, when's the last time you saw a game where Brady dragged his teammates into the fight? Like, that's the biggest line. That was the crux of everything that is Brady, is that he drags you into the fight every night. And that part just hasn't been there. So I think there's an element to it that I agree with what he's saying. It's difficult to bring your A game, but I just think his A game shouldn't be as difficult to bring as it appears to be every night for him so far this year.
I guess if I'm to find any fault, and this is one of my favorite players to watch in the NHL, I just want him to be doing those things because we think about him dragging the team into the fight. That's the expression most people would use to describe Brady Tkachuk, bull in a china shop. But there's little moments of leading by example where I'd like to see him never do. Like in the last month, there have been examples of slow back check.
Yep.
There was an example of in the Nashville game on the winning goal by Steven Stamkos, where he's holding the goal post with his glove, and he's got his hand in one stick, and he's just sort of poking at Stamkos while he swats home the winning goal. And I'm like, what? So slow back check, moments like that, and
bad line changes.
That was my third point. There was
sorry, I thought okay, sorry.
No, that was going to be the third point. It like just and he's not alone there. There's a number of guys who do that, like just coasting. Like we all, if you ask any hockey player in the NHL, do you think the game is a game of the small things and the game of inches and the little moments matter? They would all agree 100% yes. So what is giving away 1 second of defending to make a line change? You just, even if it takes you 1 extra second, which is an eternity when a guy's out there flying at 1,000,000 miles an hour, dangling the puck up ice, like you can't give that second away because you're frustrated. So you gotta haul ass and get off the ice. So just those moments for me, for a captain who I mean, I sound like I'm burying the guy because, again, he's one of my favorite players to watch. There's just such a necessary moments in a game where I want that guy who wears the C to lead by example. And those are 3 examples where he's not been.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yep, you're bang on. Look, things that make Brady Brady. Like I said, away from offensive statistics, the things that you go, that's Brady Tkachuk. Oh, look at that move. That's Brady Tkachuk. The things he does in a game. There's just less and less of those this season. There's something off. There's something missing. I don't know if it's mental, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's physical injury. There's something off and has been off all year. And he obviously wasn't willing to discuss it or admit to it. And maybe we'll find out later. I don't know.
Graham also put it out there in his article. So that was the one-on-one part with Brady Tkachuk, talking about things like that. But he also went on to talk about contract. And there's the concern in the market that what Matthew Tkachuk did in Calgary is what Brady will do here, even though he has said that's, he kind of, marches to the beat of his own drum here. He's going to do his own thing. His dad has said he thinks he'll be here for the long haul. So I don't know what in fact is in reality is going to happen versus what he's saying. Nobody's going to say with 2.5 years left on their contract, yep, can't wait, I'm out. So he puts it out there, Graham does, the notion of that social media warriors who are criticizing amidst the frustration with the team's record, daily critiques of where Tkachuk is at, particularly given his thumb problem, they may want to be concerned about that because, again, the guy's going to have a hard decision to make in a year and a half when the window opens for him to sign a new contract, an extension with the club. And so his suggestion is, if they want Brady Tkachuk to have any shot at him, the organization's got to, prove that they're going to take this thing in the right direction. But you also want there to be this love affair between player and fan base to continue. And if the dialogue on social media that's occurred over the last 3 weeks here continues, that may affect that.
Yeah, like you want to be able to speak your mind. You're a fan and you have your opinions and we want to state your opinion. And when you're at a game, you want to cheer or boo accordingly because you're a fan. But in the back of any true fan's mind is the, oops, let's not piss off Brady, right? You mentioned it a lot, like things that happen amongst the fan base, in the building, wherever, whenever he reads it, however he comes across it. Are there things there that are going to piss him off, not only within the fan base, but management of the team? We've talked about that too. How is Brady going to react if there isn't another player coming in, if there isn't a move made by Stales, if there is an improvement from this team? All those things factor into whether you're going to stay or not. So you want to be able to voice your opinion. You have the right to, and you have the right to boo and cheer when you see fit. But always lingering is Brady going to be pissed off enough that he's not going to want to stay? And that's a scary thought for a lot of fans in this team, in this town.
Yeah, I mean, if you're of a certain vintage, you remember the early days of the Battle of Ontario, those 4 playoff series, and a number of them where Sens fans were clamoring for, we need a Gary Roberts or a Gary Roberts type. You've got a Gary Roberts type now. And Graham makes a reference to that in his article. And so if you want the Gary Roberts type, then you got to kind of deal with that. But on the other hand, let me just play devil's advocate here. If you want to dodge criticism, then play better, right? Because, if you're figuring, okay, the fan base is upset with me and they're critiquing me, I want to go somewhere new. Well, if you don't play well there, your fan base there is also going to do the same thing. Winning and playing great, that is the best deodorant, as they say.
Are you ready to take your Ford ownership to the next level? Introducing Ford Pass at Jim K. Ford, your passport to a world of convenience and control. Start your vehicle remotely, lock or unlock it from your smartphone, receive instant alerts about your vehicle's health, and schedule service appointments. Don't miss out on the Ford Pass revolution at Jim K. Ford, 1438 Uville Drive in Orleans, or online at jimkford.com.
At Jim K. Ford Lincoln, we say yes!
With Celebrite, enjoy effortless, customizable lighting for any event, holiday, or special moment. Our energy-efficient LEDs blend seamlessly into your home and are easily controlled through our app on your smartphone. No ladders, no hassle, just year-round brilliance. Celebrite.ca.
You know, Steve, if you ever get tired of waiting in line for an oil change, you can go to Midas, make an appointment. You don't have to wait in line. You just show up whatever time you want it. They'll set up an appointment for you. Walk in, get your car done in 20 minutes, wait there for it. Maybe takes 40 minutes, but they're going to give it a good going over while it's in the shop. Check out the 5 Midas locations, midas.ca.
And so I would, you're never going to get fans to buy into the concept of turning away from what they believe to be less than stellar play, particularly when you're measuring out contracts.
Yeah, you also thought there was an opportunity there for Brady to say something a little differently when he said, what I really care about is the opinion of the guys in this room, or the thoughts or the support of the guys in this room. You thought there was a missed opportunity there for him to add an extra something to that sentence, did you not?
Yeah, season ticket holders. Yeah, I think I would want your season ticket holders are your bosses, effectively. They're the ones who are paying the freight. Obviously, it filters through Michael Andlauer, but the season ticket holders, you should care what they think, and that's all I have to say about that. A couple other things before we go today. Non-NHL. You know what? I want to do this one. Not before we get to the non-NHL storylines. There was Mike Russo in Minnesota. He wrote about the concept of a possible deal with do we call him backup goalie Jesper Wallstedt, or is he like a 1A, 1B with Philip Gustafsson now?
Yeah. 1A, 1B, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. But very nice goalie. And Russo was reporting that there may be a trade window for Wallstedt to bring in another center. The question I would throw out there, would you be willing to do that deal to solve your goaltending problem? You're still dealing with, a long contract still for Linus Ullmark, and that would have to be dealt with too. But would you toy with the idea of like a Pinto or a Cousins for a Wallstedt?
I would certainly be willing to have internal discussions. That is apparently the story. He is willing to trade Wallstedt for a number 2 center. He just wants a number 2 center. Doesn't need a number 1 center. Doesn't need 3 or 4 guys. Doesn't need a first. Doesn't need prospects. He'll trade Wallstedt for a number 2 center, is apparently the story out there. 2 sources, not just Mike Russo, somebody else confirmed that they had heard the same thing. So here you are. Are you willing to give up Cousins or Pinto to get Wallstedt? Wallstedt is 22, 23 years old, on a very favorable contract. He's still got a year left and about 2.2, I think it is. Then he's an RFA, so you got team control. The only problem becomes, you still got Linus Ullmark here making his big coin, but I would definitely consider it. I would discuss it with my coaching staff, and I would discuss it with my pro scouts and anybody else whose opinion I value. I would be discussing it and look at it seriously. I don't know that it's enough. I don't know what number 2 centers are available out there. I don't know what team that needs a Wallstedt is willing to give up a number 2 center at this time of the season. But yeah, I would consider it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I just have I guess I'm buying into the whole goalie graveyard thing. There's a big part of me that says Wallstedt would get here and it wouldn't go very well. They've already done the Minnesota goalie thing before. Cam Talbot came from Minnesota, had some great numbers there, came here and was just okay. It wasn't bad, but he wasn't great either. Wasn't what he was in Minnesota. Part of what makes a goalie great is everybody playing great in front of you. And that's been Minnesota's rep for several years, regardless of coach, too. It always seems like they're a very good defensive team. And Gustafsson, he leaves here. He wasn't real well thought of. He was thought of as kind of expendable via the expansion draft. And he goes to Minnesota and looks like a totally different goaltender. So, no, it wasn't the expansion draft. That was Decord. This was actually Talbot. That was the same deal.
It was Talbot.
So, yeah. Anyway, so it depends what you can pull off, because you're obviously not bringing in Wallstedt to and paying Linus Ullmark at 8.25 still. That'd be tough. But yeah, I probably would look at that. But man, there's no guarantees of anything, and you'd hate to lose a Pinto or a Cousins and then just come up with the same old in terms of goaltender performance. Man, I'd hate to be a GM. It's easy enough. It's easy enough for us to just sort of yammer away about this or that, but everything is so scrutinized when you're the actual GM and you want to do the right thing every time, but it's always hard to project how things will go. The non-NHL things that we wanted to get to here. What did you think of William Nylander of the blue team? He's injured, so he's out of the lineup. he's up there, up in the press box with a couple of his buddies who are also scratches. And the TSN cameras, as Colorado's putting it to them 3-0 in the third period, the cameras trained on the players up in the press box, and they all see themselves on TV. Nylander thought it'd be funny to look right into the camera from, I don't know, several hundred feet away and flip the camera the bird. And a lot of people went sideways about that, including the NHL, which gave him a $5,000 fine today. What did you think?
I thought it was a guy who's a bit of a goof, who's a bit of a free for all. Like he wasn't serious. It's not like he was pissed off at people. He's just William Nylander being William Nylander. He's a little goofy, and it was a joke. It wasn't meant to a direct message to anyone or any group or any organization, or he wasn't ticked at TSN. It wasn't, I don't even think it wasn't even a reflection on what he thought of the game. I don't think. I just think it's William Nylander being a goofy. I mean, he could have just as easily done the thumb on the nose and twiddled his fingers, like it was no big deal to me. I thought it was just William Nylander doing something goofy. What do you think?
Same, zero interest in that. It's just, I think about, I watched the news today and I'm like, all the horrifying things that are happening in the world right now, and you're going to get upset over that. And don't come at me with, like kids are doing that when they're in grade 1, like in the schoolyard, they're actually, it really is such a small thing. And he's certainly not meaning it. He's not actually saying, hey, every Leaf fan watching right now on TSN, F you. He's not saying that. He's being playful, and it probably wasn't the right thing to do. But let's start giving $5,000 fines every time somebody on the hot mic down at rinkside gets caught with the F-bomb down there. How is that?
There you go.
That's probably, because that's being said with venom and anger and hatred. And that's probably a lot more damaging to the the pearl clutchers out there than a sort of a flippant trying to be funny sort of a thing. I thought that was a joke that would be worth $5,000 with all the mayhem that happens in the NHL physically and violently. That's worth $5,000. Come on. Anyway,
go YouTube Brian Trottier, Brian Bellows. Have you ever seen that one? That's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't. That never got on TV though, right?
No, that didn't get on TV, but that's some of the vitriol that's happening on the ice during a game. So imagine how much, and they know there's mics around them, and they were doing that. So imagine what kind of crap's being said on the ice towards somebody, your opponent at that time, right then and there in the moment, versus a little flip the bird with a goofy smile on your face. Like, who cares?
Exactly. Congratulations to our pal Jason Yorkie. He is going into the Ottawa Sports Hall of Fame. You're a big Yorkie guy, right?
Yes, Yorkie and I go back a ways. I love Yorkie. Yorkie's fun. And he was doing a Calgary game that I was watching the other night. I guess he flies out there to do Calgary games with John Abbott of all people, right? He does their color. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Rogers. Yeah, he does color on Rogers. But good for him. It's nice, right? He's an Ottawa boy. He played in Nepean. He played the Swiss Falls Bears and the then CJHL. A good career in the OHL and a good solid pro, and played for the Senators. Like, he is what it should be to be in a local sports Hall of Fame. It's perfect. He's an Ottawa guy who produced and played in Ottawa, and good for him. Congratulations.
Yeah, and a good analyst too. I like listening to him on Coming in Hot and on NHL broadcasts, and so he's made a great transition in that area. Worked with him. He did the show after mine on TSN 1200 for many years, so we're always chit-chatting on an almost daily basis. So good guy, good local guy there, and a good pro as well in his NHL days. So congratulations to Jason York. And Wayne Gretzky turned 65 on Monday. Hey, caramba. And we're of a certain vintage where we remember the guy's whole career. A good number of our viewers will be like, yeah, I remember Gretzky a little bit in those late 90s and stuff. Like, you and I were like, teenagers when this guy's career was getting underway. And so I remember the All-Star game where he scored like 4 goals. And what a show the kid's putting on. People bemoan how Sid the Kid is now no longer a kid. Well, we go back even farther than that. And Gretzky being 65 is weird, isn't it?
Yeah, he stole the car right out of John Garrett's garage, they say. John Garrett had the MVP wrapped up. Gretzky had 1 goal and then scored 3 in the third period. I remember one night when he was on Letterman. Was it Letterman? Yeah, he was on Letterman after he'd lost a tooth. There's a rarity. You never saw that. But Gretzky lost a tooth or half a tooth or something and went on Letterman like the next night when they were in New York to play the Rangers at one point. But you're right. We saw him from the beginning, 79, 80, right? I was like grade 10 or whatever. I can remember his entire career. But you have a different opinion. Like I hated the Edmonton Oilers. You must have some fond memories of Wayne Gretzky.
Well, it was just such a weird thing because the WHA had just merged with the NHL, and this just felt like this new wave, like just the NHL with this whole new concept to it. And it was this team, this Edmonton Oilers team that came rolling on in. And within 4 years of being in the NHL, they had that amazing, no, it was even less than that, a couple of years where they beat the Montreal Canadiens, that dynastic Montreal Canadiens team of the 70s. They beat them in 3 straight in the first round, and that was the coming of age party for the Edmonton Oilers. They didn't go very far that year, but they would get going eventually against your Islanders. The Isles would be excellent for a few more years. But yeah, that team led by Gretzky was pretty special, and so certainly some great memories and how exciting that was. Right at a time when I was like all in on the NHL for the first time, instead of just watching on Saturday night, I was sort of consuming it, and it was an amazing time. And Gretzky, what would you say your Gretzky? Because you don't like him, you don't like the team, but
I got a couple.
Okay,
I
if
was
you
in
think
the
back to
building.
Gretzky.
Yeah, I was in the building for Gretzky to Lemieux. I was at the game. That was
Wow.
exciting. Yeah, that's
forgot that.
that's a time when I could cheer for Wayne Gretzky and kind of sort of and be okay with it. But my other favorite memory would be the '83 Stanley Cup final when defensive stalwart Kenny Morrow had more goals and more points than Wayne Gretzky in the Stanley Cup final when the Islanders swept the Oilers. That's one of my favorite memories of Wayne Gretzky. But on the plus side, I was in the building for Gretzky to Lemieux. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, 1987 Canada Cup. That was an absolute classic and one that no one will ever forget. I'm not sure what my very favorite Gretzky memory would be over the years. Just the whole feeling about this guy just changing the game. Again, it was a new era with the Oilers coming in against the old guard and this kid doing not just like setting records, but obliterating them. And so I just have this overall vague sense of Gretzky and just the absolute sheer dominance. But I have to say that it was his 1983 appearance on The Young and the Restless as Wayne, a mafioso from the Edmonton syndicate, came in and was he basically, when Nikki Newman just got married at the wedding reception for Nikki Newman, he busts a hard move on her. That's really classy, going to a wedding reception and trying to get with the bride. Solid, Wayne. Solid. Best acting ever.
But you have memories too, post-career. Like I can remember watching Canada winning the gold medal and looking up, and the camera was up in the stands to Gretzky on his phone. And I even thought to myself then, he said he was going to call Jimmy. I said, I wonder if he's talking to Jimmy, and found out the next day, I guess was there a live show going on at the station that day where he phoned Jimmy on air when they won the gold medal? And were you involved in that? Do you remember anything of that?
Oh yeah, I got it all for you. So we're annoyed because they asked us to work on Sunday. So it was John Rodenberg, Jim Jerome, and myself. And Jimmy is good friends with Wayne Gretzky. And so we did an all-day broadcast. Fans were calling in, excited about Canada and the big game. And it was at the end of the game when they win the whole thing. And the broadcast was cool itself. Like we had Gord Downey from the Tragically Hip calling in from Salt Lake City, talking about his love of the NHL, and listeners calling in. It was great. And all kinds of media people that were there. So it was a fun broadcast. I think I still have the actual audio cassette of that. I might try and drag that out because that might be fun to listen to one more time. But when the game was over, like you said, Gretzky was on his phone, on his cell phone. He's the GM of this team, not playing. And so he's on the bench and he's on the phone. And we're like, who the hell could he be talking to at a moment like this? And sure enough, he's calling us. He called us for an interview, and he couldn't get through initially. I don't know why he couldn't get through. The prime minister got through to him on the cell phone. He couldn't get us though. And we're having a hard time because he's calling Jimmy on his cell phone and we couldn't patch him through the boards. It was a big mess. because Jimmy didn't think ahead, right? You can't talk to
Of course,
Jimmy's cell
Jimmy didn't
phone.
think ahead.
No, imagine, right? And so we had this great conversation with the great Wayne Gretzky right after Canada ended its 50-year gold medal drought. So that was a pretty amazing moment for sure. And you're right, yeah, that as far as his post-career goes, that would be my number one. And meeting him as well at the World Cup at Canadian Tire Center, Gretzky, I got to spend an hour with him, sitting beside him, and I was like, wow. After spending an hour with Wayne Gretzky and just sort of shooting the shit, he asked me, pass me that creamer, because it was a breakfast show, obviously. He wanted cream for his coffee, so I handed him the creamer. In my head, I'm going, oh my God, I just handed a creamer to Wayne Gretzky. So it was pretty cool, and so he did an hour with us that day. So yeah, lots of good memories about Wayne Gretzky as he turns 65 this week. And with that, we will call it a day. Greg, any final thoughts from you before we head out the door?
Big game tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. Keep it within 3.
Yeah. So in terms of the chances on a scale of 0 to 10 about them jumping back in the playoff race, no, let's just say it right now. Will they make the playoffs? 0 to 10. Where's your positivity level at?
4.
Wow, that's way more positive than I expected. Jeez,
Yeah, 4.
7 points out of a playoff spot. But then you look at it. There's a lot. When I was looking at the standings, I guess trying to will myself into being interested in the playoff race because it does feel a little bit dire. But as I'm looking at the playoff teams that are or the non-playoff teams in front of them, there's a lot of bland teams in there that aren't exactly ripping it up, that are really capable of going on a 6-game losing slide. So, yeah, it's been parity to this point, but I think there's also an opportunity, based on all the analytics, that the Sens have a chance to go on a run, and there's also a good chance that a lot of these teams that are kind of cluttering the road in front of them could easily fall off into the ditch.
Yeah, but I'm fully on the league average goaltending and maintain the rest of your stats, and you got a shot here. So that's why I'm at a 4.
Yeah. All right. That's good. I'm only at a 3. So you're even more optimistic than me, that I did not expect that. But I'll still be watching the games, and like all the good listeners will, and we shall see how they fare against Colorado and on into a new month in February. There's not that many games left before the Olympic break, so they'd like to be feeling good going into it. It'd be kind of hard to keep any momentum going through the Olympics, but it'd still be nice to get on a nice little jag here to feel good through the break. With that, we'll take our leave. And don't forget that our website is sensnationhockey.com. Please check out the hockey news, thn.com/Ottawa. Thank you to our great sponsors, Midas Ottawa. We've got Celebrite, your permanent holiday lighting, and our title sponsor, Jim K. Ford. And that's about all I have to say. CJRO Radio, thanks to all the listeners there for tuning in. Greg, enjoy your evening, and we'll talk to you next time.
For sure. Thanks, Steve. Have a good night.